individuals, and we all have our different mixes of subjectivity and objectivity. So obviously there's going to be many different perspectives on a given issue. So if we allow that to come forth, then we have a better environment for sharing. I mean, think of like even in, I often do this, but I find like most truths that are useful to hold on to and to nurture and to cherish in our lives are often truths that are as operative between two individuals as they are between groups. And those groups go from family, friends, job, local community, state functions and groupings, political parties, national community, international community. I mean, these truths operate at all of those levels. But I think and the reason I say that is because I think we all have had the experience where if you're pressured in any relationship, whether it's just you and a significant other, you and somebody else, or you and a group, no matter the size of it, if you feel pressured into presenting a particular view in order to hold that dynamic together, have the semblance of structure and unity for the sake of that perceived grouping, and you don't express yourself out of fear that it may disrupt that unity, then just by that very fact that you're withholding something adds to the slow disintegration of the dynamic that you thought you were holding together by appearing united. So that just comes to mind because I know that operates a lot in where communication breaks down. I think that happens a lot in fundamentalist Christian churches. It happens in relationships. It happens at work. It happens whenever you have this pressure to conform and not a respect of diversity that allows differences to be voiced and expressed. And in that way, people feel empowered. They feel like they're a part, even if you don't end up agreeing or adopting something they're saying. At least they feel like they have a say, and their experience isn't worthless because at that point in their lives it doesn't line up with your experience or the majority of that group's experience.
Oh, yeah.
Or even the vision of the church, if it so be. Because if they're thinking and acting in another way, I'm not saying they can't, you shouldn't try to instruct them differently, but allow that expression in a way that's healthy, and even look for ways that it might be not that big of a deal that you would need to remove them from the choir. They can't speak on Sundays. They can't be in your church. They can't, stand up and speak at private meetings or whatever. And the same thing in your own, at your job or with whoever you're living your life with. We need to nurture an environment that invites difference, because that's how you get investment. You wouldn't want to invest in a relationship that wouldn't be open to a different point of view that's not the same as your own. So in that sense, I think these types of verses in the Bible often get twisted and misused by some. But the positive side of this, of what I think Paul is getting at, is that, you don't need to focus so much on differences. Well, that's one. And the other is that, there is the mind of Christ. There is the Spirit of God. There is an ultimate will for a particular place and a particular group of people and a particular issue that might be at hand. But the way that you get to that ultimate fulfillment may not be something that you can manipulate so easily if you're part of leadership and try to create it, and promote it, create a campaign to ensure its implementation. So you kind of want to be careful about that one, I think. But, overall, you do want to look for ways where the commonality is, love of God, service to others, of the ascendancy of Christ. And in that way, just look for ways that bind you together. Those are such common foundational things that, whatever the differences are, let them work themselves out in a, natural course of events.
Oh yeah, baby.
Having said that, I do think there's also a real need, especially I think in the times that we're living in, with so much economic despair being shared by so many throughout the world, that there really is a time to move away from fear and really focus on principles that are most likely to bring about a common goal.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to lose your job. You don't want others to lose their job. You don't want others to be living their lives in fear. You don't want people to be feeling like they can't trust their governmental leaders. You want accountability. You've got taxpayer money, like trillions at this point. People are even talking about $2 trillion eventually being spent to stimulate the economy. But where's the accountability as to where those things are going, and do those things really stimulate the economy? And if we're living in an environment where we have that mistrust of leadership, then where really is the freedom to really develop the life that you want? In fact, that reminds me, I was reading recently from some works of Hegel, who some people were associating him with, at the time, with the development of the Nazi Party for some of the things that he was saying. But anybody could adopt what he's saying without becoming a Nazi, and unfortunately people can't make that distinction. But he's basically saying that you can't really have a free spiritual society if the state, the government, doesn't have some clauses and foundational principles that would support that freedom. So you might take for granted that we live in a country that supposedly was founded on freedom of religion and thought and speech. But a lot of people, died in sacrifice so that we could have what we have today. And if we abuse it or try to stifle the speech of others and the expression of diverse faiths, then we kind of threaten what really holds us together. And unfortunately, it kind of falls into what I was saying earlier in the first two verses there, that the more you try to conform and force unity, the more fragile it becomes. And paradoxically, the more you allow for diversity, then the stronger the unity is. And that may sound difficult for you, but that's partly why I spend a lot of time the last few years talking about Eastern philosophies, because they have a good grasp of the paradoxical nature of truth, hence the yin and yang symbol, where instead of looking at black and white, you have that fluid line where black and white meet, or where hot and cold meet, or where servant and leader meet, where man and woman meet, where dark and light meet. Not that they're forever separated, but there's this call for all of us to kind of find where it is that we can help represent the best balance between what is publicly demonstrated and what is privately held.